Most hunters who are out looking at mule deer in August are taking velvet photos. The hunters who actually kill big bucks in September and October found those bucks in August and knew what they were actually looking at. August is the most valuable scouting window of the year for mature mule deer. Most hunters aren't using it. The problem is that hunters either skip August scouting entirely because they assume bucks are going to move before the season opens, or they find a summer buck and treat him as a guaranteed target without understanding what changes between August and their opener. Both approaches waste the best intelligence window the year gives you. This episode gives you the specific approach for finding mature mule deer bucks in August, where they are, what terrain they're using, how to read what you're seeing, and how to turn August scouting into a fall plan that actually holds up when the season opens. Now, I've spent 34 years hunting and guiding Western big game across the high desert, canyon systems, and mountain terrain, and 30 years as a professional strength conditioning and nutrition coach, working with athletes at every level, including years competing as an elite athlete myself. Here's what that time in the field has taught me about finding mature bucks in August. Bucks in velvet are doing three things in August. They're eating, they're staying cool, and they're protecting their antlers. And that routine creates predictable movement that's easier to read than almost anything you're going to see once hunting pressure hits in September. The feed is driving everything. Velvet antlers are still growing in August, and bucks are consuming high volumes of quality forage to fuel that growth. That means consistent movement between bedding cover and feed on a schedule you can glass. They're not random. They're doing the same things in the same places on the same schedule because the biology demands it. The visibility advantage in August is real too. Velvet antlers are pretty dark. They're wide, they're rounded, they're thicker. They catch light differently than hard antlers. In early morning and late evening, a mature buck in full velvet stands out against a hillside in a way that makes him findable from long distances. And that visibility window closes fast once that velvet strips and the antlers blend in with the terrain in ways that they don't in August. And there's no pressure yet. Bucks are using terrain they're going to abandon the moment hunting season opens and people start walking through the country. That open, predictable behavior is the window you're working in. It's a short one. The goal of August scouting isn't to find a buck and assume he'll be standing in the same spot on the opener. The goal is to learn which mature bucks are living in your unit, what terrain they prefer, and what patterns you can build a fall plan from. That's a different objective than just finding deer, right? Keep that distinction clear or you're going to misuse the information you collect. So mature bucks in August are prioritizing three things: feed quality, thermal comfort, and security. Those three priorities drive them to specific terrain, and that terrain is findable on a map before you ever leave home. I want you to push to elevation. Bucks move high in August a lot of times, right? Upper mountain terrain and high alpine basins hold the best quality forbs for antler growth. The heat pushes them up too. The lower desert and foothill country that's going to hold deer in the late fall is probably too hot for comfortable daytime movement in August. High elevation means better feed and cooler temperatures. Mature bucks know exactly where both of those are. North-facing aspects are going to hold moisture, shade, and better quality feed longer in the summer than south-facing slopes. When you're building your glassing plan, start on those north-facing terrain aspects. Those are where the bucks are going to spend the most time when August temperatures are at their peak. Water is also a locator, same as it is for elk. High elevation springs, seeps, and small alpine lakes near good feed are going to pull deer to predictable locations on a predictable schedule. So mark water sources on your map before you go and build your glassing positions around the intersection of water, north-facing feed, and security cover. And while we're on that topic, security gets a lot more important with age, right? A young buck's going to stand in the middle of an alpine meadow and feed for an hour without much concern. A mature buck works the edges. He comes off of cover and feeds and checks his surroundings and goes back. He beds in terrain that gives him a visual advantage, like cliff rims and boulder fields, broken benches, dark timber above the feed. The older the buck, the more deliberately he uses cover at every stage of the day. And not all bucks in August are going to be doing the same thing in groups. Younger deer in the 2.5 to 3.5 year class commonly form bachelor groups while they're in velvet. Multiple bucks feeding together are easier to locate at distance. More movement, more velvet visible, more activity to catch your eye. But mature bucks are often alone or with one other mature deer. They're less social in summer than younger deer and more selective about when they expose themselves. So when you find a bachelor group, look at the edges. The biggest bucks in the area may not be in that group. He may be entering the feed at a slightly different time from a different direction, using the terrain around the group rather than moving with it. He likes to be near them, but not necessarily always with them. A bachelor group tells you there's quality summer habitat nearby, but it doesn't tell you where the oldest deer in the drainage is usually. So use the group as a starting point and glass the surrounding terrain hard before you move on. Get to your glassing vantage point before first light as well. Mature bucks are on their feet at dawn and in their best feed during the first hour or two of shooting light, and that's the window you're there for. So choose a position that gives you a wide view into north-facing slopes, feed areas, and water sources. You want elevation above the country you're glassing so you can see into terrain that's invisible from the valley floor. Glass slowly. The instinct is to scan fast, looking for obvious antlers, and that misses deer. So work in sections of the hillside, right? Make sure that you're covering those completely before you move on to the next. You're looking for pieces, the curve of a velvet tine, the flick of an ear, the horizontal line of a deer's back against a slope. Full body views in open country are probably the exception in mule deer hunting. Most of what you find are going to be parts of mature mule deer. Hey, if you're serious about becoming a more consistent mule deer hunter, I built a mule deer hunting series of ebooks to walk you through my entire process step by step. This is a 7-volume system designed specifically for Western hunters pursuing mule deer in real mountain and public land environments. In Volume 1, Foundations in Reality, you're going to learn how to understand how mule deer actually live, the myths that mislead most hunters, and the mindset required for consistent success. In Volume 2, Finding Mule Deer and Understanding Pressure, you're going to learn how mule deer move across the landscape and how hunting pressure changes their behavior. In Volume 3, Terrain, Aspect, and Positioning, you're going to learn how to read mule deer country and position yourself correctly using terrain and wind. In Volume 4, Glassing, Visual Discipline, and Buck Identification, you're going to learn how to find mule deer, glass efficiently, and identify mature bucks. In Volume 5, Early Season and High Country Strategy, you're going to learn how to hunt velvet and early season bucks in alpine terrain. In Volume 6, Rut, Transition, and Late Season Movement, we're going to talk about understanding migration, cold weather movement, and how bucks shift through the season. And in Volume 7, Execution and Decision Stacking, we're going to talk about how to close the distance, execute under pressure, and make disciplined decisions during the stalk. If you want to hunt mule deer with structure instead of guesswork, you can buy them individually, or you can bundle all the volumes together and save 50% off the entire mule deer hunting series of ebooks at backboneunlimited.com. As I mentioned before, in velvet, antlers look pretty different than they do in October. We all know that, right? They're dark, they're more rounded, they're thick, right? They don't have the hard, sharp lines of dried antlers. In morning light, against a yellow or green hillside, a full velvet rack is one of the most visible things on the mountain. So learn what that specific look is at distance, and you're going to start finding bucks you would have glassed over before. When a buck finishes feeding and goes to bed, watch where he goes. Note the terrain feature, the elevation, the aspect. That's the second piece of intelligence from the morning. Not just where he was feeding, but where he went. That's probably a lot more important. Evening is the second primary window, right? Bucks come off their beds an hour or two before dark and move back towards the feed. If you've already located deer in the morning, you know where to be looking when the light drops in the evening. Mature bucks in August are going to bed in the coolest, shadiest, most defensible terrain available too. North-facing timber, cliff faces with overhead cover, boulder fields with shade and escape routes, deep brush on a bench. They're cooling down and they want their back covered. If you watch a buck bed in the morning, you've narrowed his midday location considerably as well. Some bucks bed in terrain where they're still partially visible through a spotting scope, a leg hanging out from a rock, a velvet tine visible through a gap in the brush. Midday glassing is really slow work, so what you're looking for here, again, is pieces, not whole deer profiles. What the bedding location is going to tell you beyond that specific morning is what cover type that buck really trusts for security. And a lot of times this is individual to individual bucks. A buck that beds on cliff rim terrain in August is going to look for similar terrain when he needs security in September and October. The specific location might change, but the preference tends to be the same. So here's where a lot of August scouting falls apart. Hunters find a buck, they drop a pin, and they plan to hunt that exact spot when their season opens. Then they show up and the buck isn't there. The velvet strips in late August into early September, and as that happens, bucks begin shifting from summer range towards fall range. And that shift is driven by changing feed quality at elevation, the approach of breeding season, and hunting pressure once their season opens. Buck you find at 10,000 feet in August might be at 7,000 feet by the time rifle season opens. He might still be in the same drainage, just lower, or the pressure may have pushed him to a completely different part of the mountain. The timing of your season opening relative to the velvet strip matters. The earlier the season, the closer to the summer location he's going to be. Don't treat your August waypoint as just a hunting spot. Treat it as a reference point for building your fall plan based on that information. The terrain between his August location and the lower fall country is where the hunt is probably really going to happen. Saddles connecting upper and lower ground, benches on the natural downhill route, water sources along the transition corridor, terrain pinch points where the country funnels deer through a narrow crossing on their way between summer and their fall range. Those features are findable on your digital map before you ever leave home, so put them on your map now while you still know where the buck is coming from. Every mature buck you find in August needs a map entry with real notes, not just a waypoint. So I want you to record his exact location, the time he was on his feet, the terrain he was using, the aspect, the elevation, the cover type he used, like we talked about, the direction he moved when he bedded, what feed type he was using, whether other bucks were nearby, what the approach looked like from downwind. All of that information builds a better picture for you. Multiple observations over multiple mornings in the same area are going to show you if there's a pattern, which terrain he prefers, which direction he travels, what he does at different times of day. That pattern is what you use to build your fall plan from. A waypoint with no notes is just a dot on a map, right? So your fall planning from August intel comes down to one adjustment plan, where he'll actually be when your season opens, not where he was when you found him. So your early archery hunters might find him still close to the summer location, but the late September and October hunters should probably plan for him to have shifted lower and to a different aspect. Build your access routes to the transition areas as well. Make sure you're marking those saddles, the benches, the pinch points between his summer location and his expected fall range. Figure out the wind for each approach. Identify which lines keep you out of his travel corridor until you're ready to be in position. The time you spend on your map in August is what determines whether you're hunting a real probability or just guessing in the field. Now, if this episode made you realize you need a better mule deer plan this season, don't just watch another video and hope it all comes together. Build your plan right now. If you want to study my full system on your own, start with my mule deer hunting series of ebooks. If you want daily guidance, accountability, and a place to ask questions as season gets closer, join me on Team Backbone. If you want my eyes on your actual hunt plan, your maps, access, terrain, pressure points, wind, thermals, and strategy, book a mule deer hunt plan audit with me and I'll get you tightened up before season. If the missing piece is your body, your legs, your lungs, or your ability to handle mountain miles and a heavy pack, check out my Backbone Unlimited training plans. And if nutrition is where you need more structure, getting leaner, fueling longer days, or building a better in-season food plan, check out my nutrition plans. The hunters who are ready in September and October are the ones who start tightening their plan right now. So go to backboneunlimited.com, choose the path that fits where you are, and I'll help you get started. Thanks for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'll see you in the comments. You know I read and respond to all of them. Until next time, train harder, hunt smarter, and never settle.